Supplemental math videos from Circle Christian School.
SAT 3.6, number 13. This is a really good place to remember that quadratic sum and product rules. That when you have a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and a, b, and c are just real numbers, then the sum of the roots is root 1 plus root 2 equals a negative b over a. You just plug things in. And the product of the roots is root 1 times root 2 is the c over a. All right, number 13. Well, one of the first things that I'm going to do is remember that we need to make everything a fraction. And to do any of this type of math, and we have variables down in the denominator, we're always going to look for our least common denominator. The least common denominator is always 1 of anything times 1 of anything else. And because we have a t minus 2 squared, and you'll remember that's the same thing as t minus 2 times t minus 2, that our least common denominator here is going to be t minus 2 times t minus 2, basically 1 of every denominator that's sitting down here. So what I'm going to do is multiply everybody by the common denominator. I'm going to ditch the demon here. I'm going to get rid of the denominator. And so I'm going to multiply, let me see, I'm going to mark that out because I've changed it to that right there. I like to make everything factored out. When I have these, it's just easier to go see. So I'm going to multiply everybody by a t minus 2 times a t minus 2. And this is a nice, easy way to take everything back to being linear instead of being that fraction of a hate thee problem. All right, so I'm going to be able to cross this one out and this one out, which just gives me a 1 that's left here. And so I start rewriting down below. All right, obviously up here on the next one, it's going to be 6 t minus the 2 times t minus the 2. See how we're losing all these little denominators? Here's my sign, so I'm going to put that down. Very important. That cancels out with that canceling out, and it just leaves us with a t minus 2. See? Now it's all nice and linear, doesn't have these little denominators going on. And we're just going to walk through our kingdom steps. We need that 0 product rule. Everything equals 0. And so I'm going to have a 0 here, which means I'm taking away a 1 from both sides. Equals a 6 times, we have a binomial squared, so that's going to be a t squared minus a 4t. If you need to, FOIL it out, plus 4. Plus a t minus 3. Combining like terms. Okay, so we still got to bring this out right here. And so I get a 0 equals a 6t squared minus a 24t plus a 24 plus a t minus a 3. And so, again, I'm going to combine some like terms. I know it's a little bit tedious with the t's in it. That was clever. So a negative 23t plus a 21. All right, now this looks like a rather large quadratic equation. But what they asked us for was the product of the roots. they didn't say that in so many words, so I will read to you what it says. If P and Q represent the solutions, okay, that's the roots, the x's, the zeros of the equation, what is the value of P times Q? So yes, we want the product of the roots. Remembering that the products of the roots is root 1 times, my bad, I can't erase because it erases everything, so let me white it out. Okay, times root 2. The product is C over A. And so I'm just going to put, this is the C, this is the B, this is the A. I'm going to put the 21 over the 6. And when you reduce it down, it gives you a 7 over 2. And lo and behold, that was the answer. All right, now, is there another way to do this? Sure, actually, there's about 3 different ways to go and do this. Take a look at the next slide. All right, so now what I'm going to do is actually try to find my double bubble. And those of you that work the trial and error, it's fine. You can go ahead and do it that way. But generally, this is for the people that are not too good with it, that I'm going to do the factor by grouping way. I'm going to deconstruct here in my process. And so A times C, the first guy times the last guy, is 126. It's positive 126 equals the B, which is a negative 23. Now you remember you can actually go to your calculator there and find factors for any number by going to the y equals, and you'll put 126 divided by the x, and then you use your second key, and then hit graph across the top there because that's going to give you a table of values. And you look at the drop down list here and you see that you have 1 and 126. What you're doing is looking for 2 that you can add together. That will give you a negative 23. 2 and 63, 3 and 42. The next whole number, 6 and 21. 7 and 18. And the last one, let's see, 9 and 14. This is also a good number if you need a lot of factors for something. Okay, well these added together is going to give us our negative 23. Multiply it together, it gave us a positive number. So I'm actually going to take it down to the binomial. I'm going to deconstruct here so I can factor by grouping. So let's see, got a negative 9t minus the 14t and 6t squared. Okay, now we can factor by grouping. Remember to leave that sign in the middle there. And let's see, we can take a 3 and a t out of the first one. So we get a 2t. Remember, you can always double check here by just distributing back. Minus a 3. Okay, sign comes down, minus sign. We can take a 7 out of both of these. There we go. And that gives us a 2t minus a 3. Got to have the twins. And again, you can always just double check. If you multiply that, does it give you what you had up above? Great. So the twin is one of our factors. So we get 2t minus 3 and 3t minus 7. So t here is going to equal opposite sign, so plus 3, over the first number, 2, and opposite sign, so positive 7, over the first number. If you set it to 0, that's exactly what happens, over the 3. So now we have to multiply these together. So 3 over 2 multiplied to the 7 over 3, and voila! Okay, and that gives us the 7 over 2. So the product is 7 over 2. So that's one way. Another way to do it would be to use the quadratic equation, the quadratic formula. And with the quadratic formula, you'll remember that this is A, B, and C here. So negative B plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And I like making mine separate. All over 2A. So quadratic formula song. And now I'm just going to plug things in. I'm going to plug my A's in, which are 6. Plug my B's in, which is a negative 23. And C, the positive 21. And if you're not sure about the quadratic formula, remember if you printed off your vocabulary there, this is a formula that you should know. I also sing a song to it, and when we get to a quadratic formula here, I'll teach you the song for those of you that don't know it. And so this is actually going to give me a positive 23 over the 12. And we're going to have the plus and the minus. And I'm going to do the radical here, which is 23 squared. Oh my, a big number. I'll have to use my calculator. Getting up there to the 600s. So 520. Okay, continuing from where I lost my recording from the other side, other slide here. I've got the quadratic formula up here, so I'm just going to plug the numbers in. And what do we have? We had negative 23 and negative 23 and the 21. Okay, let's move on from there. So this gave me a 23 over 12. And I can't reduce that, so I'm just going to bring it down here. Okay, now I'm going to do the radical here, and this was 529 minus the 126 times the 4. 504. And that equals plus 529, 1033. And I'm going to try to see if it's not a perfect square first. And it isn't, so I have something wrong here. Could it be 592? It could have been. Yep. No, 529 and 24 times 21, 504. All right. I love it when I gotta sit here and look at stuff and try to figure out what happened. 621C negative. Oh, it's a minus sign. Ding dong. Ding dong. Wow. If you saw that, I don't know why I added that together. So I'm going to white it out because when I erase, it erases everything. It's not selective erasing. So I'm just going to white it out here. Okay. So 529 minus 504 is 25. Silly me. I should have known that.
The other one didn't look like a nice little perfect square anyway. So that's going to give us a 5, so a 5 over the 12. So now we're just going to do the math. I'm going to plus first, which gives me a 28 over 12. And because I'm looking for the roots, I'm just going to multiply them together. And the 23 minus the 5 is 18. 18. And the 18 over the 12. And let's see, since we're multiplying them, 12, 18, they share a 6. So this is a 2 and this is a 3. 12 and 28 share a 4. So this is a 3 and this is a 7. And the 3's can go away, and there's our 7 over 2. So you could do it either way, but it's really great to keep into memory, back in the mind, practice it when you can, that sum and that product rule, because it happened way quicker than trying to do the last two ways.